Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of MTD CNC North America. I have the great privilege to be with my buddy Dave today, and we are at DRG. As you can see from this gorgeous logo, today I get to learn a bit more about how you guys started, the growth, the future, anything you'd like to share. So Dave, let's learn a little bit more, buddy.
So we started out with a concept. We started out with a theory to build a cell a year and to create a gun company to grow it at 100% a year, 5 years straight. So without ever being in the manufacturing business, without ever being in that kind of stuff, it was a really dumb comment.
I was going to say, almost like the ignorance is bliss thing.
Ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know what you don't know, it's great.
Yeah.
The problem is we did it, right? The problem is over the last 5 years, we grew 100% every year. We really screwed up last year and grew about 300%.
Oh, poor you.
We'll grow about another 100% this year, and the partnership with Methods and building these automated cells the way we have has really been the driving growth of the company.
Wow.
So looking at the different products, looking at the hardships that gun manufacturers have and setting out the plan from the beginning. We wanted to build these automated cells every year. We wanted to grow the company every year to an end goal. So the end goal was to control vertically the parts that every gun manufacturer has trouble with. They have trouble getting bulk carrier groups. We build them. We have trouble getting barrels. We make them. Uppers and lowers and handguards, we make it. We outsource plastics and springs, gas blocks, muzzle brakes, everything else on an AR-15 and that kind of gun, we truly almost manufacture in-house. Wow. We buy, we have a great partnership with a Swiss shop. They make all of our lower part kits parts for us. We're buying hammers and triggers and that kind of stuff from places that we've been to. We've tried and checked out and really vetted our supply chains on things that we don't make in-house. And then we've built our name for ourselves in the OEM world by delivering, by being able to, do what you say you're going to do and do it. By building the automated cells and by looking at it in that way, and truly ignorance is bliss, because we didn't know what we didn't know. We just knew that we had this crazy concept that we wanted to run 70 hours a week unattended. So we had that thought process and that creativity from day one. And then the fun part was figuring out how to actually do it, right?
Right.
So how do you not make scrap? How do you control your processes? How do you do things certain ways that at the end of the day, the assembly can be automated? The production goes easier. You're not fighting all the parts of the sub-assemblies into the assembly. So a lot of the stuff, like all of our bulk carrier groups, we grind the IDs, we grind the OD. There's only 2 of us in the country that actually grind everything. Everybody else hones or hard turns. So on a profilometer on the IDs, we'll get about a 6. The print calls for a 32. If you hone it, you'll get about a 12 to a 14. If you hard turn it, you'll get about a 27. It's all within spec, right?
Right.
But gas rings on a bulk carrier group, sliding back and forth, firing, they're sliding on glass. So we do things for a purpose, but we also grind it after milling it and after machining it so that assembly is so easy. Everything is ground tolerance. Everything is perfect before we go to assemble it. When you're building 2,000 BCGs a day through your assembly lines and everything else, everything they have to fight, everything they have to work on, everything they have to see, hey, why, our cam pins, our firing pins, all of those type of products, we grind it all. It's all ground to perfect specs so that we slide everything together nicely and it works beautifully together.
Well, knowing what I know about you already, you're an outside-of-the-box thinker, and you're creative, and I like the part about ignorance is bliss, because sometimes it's only ourselves that are stopping ourselves from doing something more, right? It's a way of thinking, but so we have this crazy thought, right?
Yep.
We have DRG, we have the idea. Did you just start with a couple of machines and then just kept growing and growing every year?
So
and
I think
what year did you start?
We started in 2015.
2015,
We
okay.
bought this building in 2016. We moved from 11,000 square feet to 35,000 square feet. And we kind of went to the normal route for the beginning. We bought Haas's. We started learning Haas's. You know, instead of a single vise, we're running double vices. Instead of running double vices and double vices, we're running twin rotaries. We're learning how to get that unattended runtime. How do we get a guy to be able to run 3 or 4 machines while still making good product? And then, you know, we bought our first Nakamura. We bought a triple turret lathe to begin with. It's like, okay, there's a lot of things going on here. And we started running bolts off of it. Then we decided to split, you know, take carrier production out. We were dropping carriers complete off a lathe. And then we kind of said, let lathes be lathes and mills be mills. And we split the lathe operations to the mill operations, and we broke it up and we roboted the mill side. Well, then we said, okay, bar feed is the simplest form of automation on a lathe. So obviously everything we bought had bar feeders on it. So once you can automate that process and get a rotary table to come out for feed out, we can track on the rotary table, because it moves every 3 inches, we can track 2-3 hours worth of production and follow QC through it without anything other than a rotary table. So the thought process is the concept of that driving force. You know, let's go look at out of the box ways. Let's go look at things. Just because you did it that way for the last 30 years doesn't mean you weren't wrong. Let's go look at how we can change it and how we can perfect manufacturing of each individual component on a high volume scale.
I'm with you on that part where you say it's aggravating when someone says you can't do it, right? One of my favorite, although cliche statements is the word impossible actually says I'm possible.
Yeah.
And I like that manner of thinking, which is why your goal was 100% growth every year, which you hit every year, except when you made that mistake and grew 300%.
It was a problem. Because now is the year that you got to grow 100% after growing 300%. And it's like, son of a gun.
Well, walking around your shop, fantastic shop, you know, I've seen the Haas's, which is a pretty standard way for people to start, I think, you know, and then adding some, you know, +2s to the 3-axis machines.
The
and then,
rotaries.
Yeah, going into some of the other machines. But now I'm seeing some of the best technology from around the world being implemented in automation cells. So I'm curious, what are your goals for the future as well? Is it another one of those ignorance is bliss and this goal is to the moon?
So we're doing some things now that we'll launch at SHOT Show and that kind of stuff, which we'll have you back after we do that. Once we release that technology, we show the world what we did next, we'll have you back and see it. It'll take a part where most of the industry takes 9 to 15 minutes to run this part. We'll machine it off in 100 seconds. Robotically loaded, checked, inline processed, inline QC, robotic, everything. It'll be run through the whole process almost robotically.
You know, Dave, if you were a sales guy right now, I wouldn't believe you. I'd walk away and say that you were lying to me, but I know that you're not, and I know what you're doing here. And hearing that kind of concept and theory, I want everyone to value that type of outside of the box thinking and realize that we can create something. And you mentioned a few minutes ago that somebody's been doing something for 35 years. It doesn't mean you weren't wrong. Well, maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but also maybe the technology has come so far and we've just not kept up with it. Isn't that why we have partners out there like Methods that allow us to create this more futuristic way of manufacturing? Yes,
like we said before, the scariest part is the first robot. The scariest part is the first automated cell. The scariest part is learning a pendant. What is a pendant? How does a pendant work with a robot? How do you interact with a robot? And my worry obviously was on the first robotic cell, it's like, okay, we're not robot programmers, we're not this, we're not that. We either have to go hire a guy or we have to learn. So you crash a robot a couple times and you learn, right? You go through, and Methods has been phenomenal on training, retraining, working with, teaching, growing, and kind of taking the fear out of, hey, I crashed my robot, can you come help me? You know, it happens a couple times, the guys laugh at me when I do it, but you gotta learn, right? You gotta be not scared of They're industrial robots. They do pretty good. They're, you teach a couple points again and you're off running.
So at this point, you're pretty much not scared of anything.
No.
The way I've seen your shop, the way you've grown over the last little bit over 5 years, it's impressive. And I am curious. I know you have goals, let's say, and ideas. I see your wheels turning all the time, sitting in conference rooms with you and listening to you talk about the passion that you have for the industry as a whole. I'm curious to see what the next 5 years holds for a guy like you, for a team like you have, for a company like DRG.
So DRG was very fortunate to be able to go out and buy a company called Saltwater Arms. So we're going to branch into a full, complete gun line under Saltwater Arms. We've built a distributorship called White Label Armory. So if you go to whitelabelarmory.com, you'll see where you can build and buy and purchase our parts and that kind of stuff. So we're vertically integrating our supply chain in-house to be able to manufacture it from bar stock to retail sale.
That's an excellent step. So I am looking forward to coming in when you release some of those other projects, when you get those other automated cells in. I'm looking forward to seeing you grow. I'm looking forward to seeing that expansion become incredibly productive and positive for you. Dave, you've been nothing but a friend and nothing but kind and educational to myself and MTD bringing us in here. So thank you so much for sharing that story.
Thank you for coming out. We talked as a staff and we talked as a team, and we decided it's time to show what we've done. It's time to teach the next generation. It's time to teach, I'm 35 years old. I shouldn't be a machine shop owner. I'm the wrong generation. We skipped a couple of years of tool makers and stuff. We got to teach the next generation of kids how to pull that part out of the block and make it into something that's cool every day.
You are absolutely right about that. And although you and I have talked about this privately, one of my favorite things is when you buy a block of material. And that block of material costs $50 or $100 or whatever it might be. Sometimes even $1,000 if we're getting into more expensive materials, Inconels and Titaniums.
Yep.
But when you're done with that part that costs $1,000 is now worth $50,000. And you see the reduction of the material and knowing the precision that went along with it. Isn't this kind of why we love what we do?
So like on our billet lowers, okay, we have a 90% material removal. We remove 90% of the weight out of that material. That's aerospace grade level of material removal and not having the part spring, not having the part twist, not having it bend, and keeping your tolerances tight and doing everything else. My guys laugh all the time because the amount of, not scrap, but the amount of material removal that we go through to get to the perfection of the parts that we want.
It takes that type of quality company to make that type of quality part, and it also takes you and your team's quality of thinking to create this type of quality, accuracy, and automation cells. So again, DRG, I wish you guys all the best. I don't know if you're a hugger or not, but I'm just going to thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you for coming in.
And I wish you all the success.
In a year or 6 months or so, come back, and we'll show you some of the other craziness that we're doing.
You got it, brother. Guys, DRG, website one more time.
DRGmanufacturing.com or whitelabelarmory.com.
There you go. You heard it here first. Appreciate it, Dave. You're a good man.
Thank you.